communication. Basically, political communication is the study of state and government. Okay, so that's how we understand political communication is the study of state and government. So it involves different actors and the process, policies, and systems. So when we say political communication, what is politics is very, very important to understand. So we need to understand what is politics. Right? What is politics? You say, what is politics for you? You might also say politics is a dirty game, right? It is a highly self conscious or self aggrandizing attitude. And you might also say it is a belief for common good. So, in whatever way, it is also a very cynical affair. So, you might come up with different definition of politics. What is politics? We need to understand what is politics, okay, before we actually understand the political communication. So, when we say political communication is basically about, as I have already told you, um, communication of policies, systems, process, and actors. Right. And it is about the study of state and government. Now, we cannot even think only about some actors like you see the government and some organizations who are in the making of the politics or system or the organization. Here we also need to understand uh, the ideologies, hmm, which actually shape the type of common good that we are talking of. Okay, so there are different perspectives that will view politics from different ways. So it is important to understand those perspectives also to understand what politics is about because we have already segregated politics from communication. Now, then we will move to communication. First, you understand what is politics, then you will go to what is communication. So, to understand politics, you also need to have some notional understanding of some concept and perspective, like you have Marxist understanding of politics, you also have liberal understanding of politics, you have a pluralist understanding of politics, or many times we also view politics as a common good. Okay, politics is a common good that is beyond the reconciliation of interest, that is beyond the limited function of state, but you actually see that it is actually viewed a bigger role of the state. In that case, what we actually see that in liberal notion of politics will say that the very starting point of politics is the individual. So individual is the starting point of politics in the sense that individual is the starting point of the society. Okay, so society is started with the individual because it is also society is a form of various groups and group is also formed of individual membership. In that way, individual is the starting point of society, and that's how we can actually see that determines the spirit of the society. That is the very classical view of politics. So you cannot ignore individual well-being. You cannot individual ignore the rights and liberties of this individual. So it gives prime importance to individual when we talk about the individualistic notion, and that is the very classical approach to understand the politics. So it emphasizes upon individual right, okay, individual liberties, and also some of the values that we hold to live a dignified life. Okay, then we move to the pluralist concept of politics. I'm giving a very brief understanding, so we don't have to go that deep into those notions and perspective. But when you talk about the pluralist notion and pluralist perspective of politics, you basically understand the group notion of politics. You have studied the group, there are different groups in the societies, and they do have different values, different interests, and those interests often come in classes. So, politics is about reconciliation of those interests of the groups. So, here we understand politics as a reconciliation affairs. So, political role, that means the role of the state. We talk about the state. So, what is state now? State is also a political organization, but state cannot exist without population and a society. Okay, so here in political communication, you also need to have uh, an understanding of state, some comprehension about what is state, what is government, what kind of population we are talking of. We are also talking of a sovereign population, we are talking of a territory. What kind of territory we are talking of? Is it simply a landmass? We are talking of resources also, based on which we can focus up in some notion, like you see the national identity, the pride over the nation. We can also talk of different values, different principles of government. We can talk of some of the ideologies which will be helpful to create some actions and also to have an effective government. Uh, and also about the process, how citizens give legitimacy to the government, right? And hence it is very important also to understand the state. And now you see that in politics, yeah, in Cruel's notion of politics, we get to see that role of state is being, you see, limited, but it is simply a reconciliator. So state is there to reconcile the interest, state is there to adjudicate the interest, the conflicts of the groups. So the role of the state is limited, but in individualistic notion of politics we actually say that the role of the state is also limited, limited to non-intervention, simply provide the welfare facilities or even the defend the territory is somehow you see very minimalistic understanding of the state. Okay, in pluralist also, in pluralist view is a bit broader than the classical individualistic notion of the state, where we see that state has a role, but the state will basically reconcile the interest, because there are multiple interests articulated from different groups, and many a time it is important to aggregate the interest, and those interests also put a pressure upon the state, upon the government to take an action and also make a policy, right? So the role of the state and government is to reconcile the interest, look through the interest, and create a consensus. If there are some conflict among the interests, try to build a consensus and get the optimal and best out of it. Okay, and then we have also like an utopian perspective of politics, and that is Marxist perspective of politics. We call it utopian because Marxist has a different understanding. It's that politics actually emanates from the class struggle. So he has focused upon that concept. Marx has focused upon the concept of class struggle. That political organization, that means the state, is not a neutral organization. State is not a neutral organization. State also favors who holds the economic power, in the sense who are affluent, who are rich, is always being favored by the state. So state is not a neutral organization, and good politics can be possible when there is a classless society. But he also said that history of hitherto organized society is a history of hitherto existing society is the history of class struggle. He said, history of hitherto existing societies, over the years we have different societies existed. Okay, prior to even formation of the state, we have that primitive societies, right? In primitive societies, there were no means of production, did not have any means of production. There are nomads, there are tribes moving from one place to other places. Okay, they were not settled tribe. They're moving from one place to other places. They're ruled by customs, and there is a fury of God. They were very scared of God, and their lifestyle, their habits, their attitudes are ruled by customs. There are certain customs that will rule them, how to behave, and how to even take up day-to-day affairs. So they are ruled by the customs, and there is a fury of God, but they are not organized at all. Huh. the nomadic settlers. They settle here, and when there is a flood or any kind of natural disasters or any kind of calamities coming, they move to other places. So that nomads are still there. Nowadays also we have seen some nomads are there. Okay. In Rajasthan also we have some communities. They move from here and there. Okay, they are not settled. Okay, but their belief system, their lifestyle is different. Okay, now you see that here in we were discussing about the type of societies, right? So in primitive societies, we had those nomads. Okay, it is not, they are not organized. So we'll be discussing more about it later. And thereafter, we also have that Oriental societies. We have Greek city state. We have also Roman city state, right? Greek city state. We have the concept of political participations. And in Roman city state, you see the gradual development and how state is being evolved from the societies. Okay, and now we actually see that in Roman period we get to find that centralized system of education, and also about courier services, postal services, like that. And slaves were there in Greek city state also, that slaves were there. Certain section of people are called slave. In the Roman city state also there are certain of section, they are called slaves. And in Roman city state, slave had a better position. They can hold property, they can have that freedom to trade, freedom to move. But in Greek city states, slave did not have that right, and that right to hold the property. So in different like era, we get to see the evolution of the state, and the role of the state is also being much more prominent over the years. State is basically a political organization, and hence here when we discuss about the study of the state and the government, we talk about this communication between the citizen and the state and the role of media in it. Media is a mediator, that will come later. But first, you understand the politics, and you cannot understand the politics without understanding the role of the state. Hence, it is important to understand the role of the state and how different perspectives. There are some perspectives and ideologies we have. They describe the role of the state, how state should be, or how state works and functions. Like you have that, you see. Marxist notion of perspective. You have that liberal notion of perspective, how state should function, how state behaves. State behaves in a minimalist and limited way. So it will not intervene into the affairs of the individual. That's how many like liberals usually believe. Royalists also believe that they will not interfere into individual life of the people and the citizen. But yes, when there is a conflict, they will come to adjudicate and reconcile. That is the belief of the pluralist, because they believe in that elite is concept of the state, but that there is circulation of elite, circulation of the elite who rule the states. There is a circulation of elite. Now, people who rule, government is also form of an elite. So, circulation of elite in the sense that one group of people is followed by another group. The group, the tenure is over, then another group of people come and reign the community and the society. So that's how the elite is being circulated. So that pluralist will not speak about the masses here. It will not speak about the masses, not speak about the democracy, speak about only the oligarchy concept. That is what is that rule of few, huh, who actually which determine the state. Now you see that Marxist notion is different. It is mass oriented here. So that this we talk about the class, we talk about elites here. So elites are also, you say, one class, and we also have a class that is a poor class. We talk about the proletariat class here. And as he has said, that history of hitherto existing societies is a history of class struggle. So in each stages of the society, we get to see some classes, opposing classes. They are antagonistic to the views, lifestyles, standards, attitudes of each other. Two antagonistic classes are there in each societies. we say that history of hitherto existing societies, we have free man and slave. There are free man and slaves. Then plebeian, patrician, and plebeian, like that way. And there are also, you see that lords and serf. Then capitalist and the proletariat. Now you see, he only talks of Marx emphasized upon Marxist perspective emphasized upon only of two contradictory anti classes. Their classes anti to each other, anti against each other, not to anti against each other. So you see that his notion of class is also very limited. If we have to criticize that, his notion of class is limited. Now you also have some understanding about class, right? What is class then? What is class? What is your understanding of class?
We can say that it is a section or a group of people who are divided by financial factors or economic factors.
Okay, financial factors and economic factor, that is one definition of class, right? So there are also different criteria to understand the class. A group of people which are also divided which are a group of people defined by their income, wealth, property, and people who are also defined by their place of residence, right? Location, right? People are maybe also defined by you see the consciousness, which is very important factor. So when we talk about the class, you have to have some understanding about the consciousness. So class exists not because of its role and relation to other class and role and relation in that social means of production. But that is also one understanding of class, but class exists just because you see that it has a purpose to exist. So you cannot actually say that all you say scorpions will form a class. No, okay, because they're born in the month of November, or all Sagittarius will form a class because they're born in the month of December. No, there has to have a purpose of existence, and that forms the consciousness. When you talk about that purpose of existence, that is the forms of, you see, that is the form of consciousness. So why do we exist? And you see that we have different classes, and each classes have some consciousness. Like you see, Marx have focused upon two contradictory classes, right? And they do have different attitudes, different lifestyle, different value system, different consciousness, different purposes. Okay, so lifestyle will not match. Proletariat and capitalist lifestyle will not match. The consciousness, their thinking, their attitude, their day-to-day living, their standard will not match. Set. Now we talk about a consumer society. It is a different, concept altogether. In consumer society and in postmodern era, we get to see a lot of many more binaries, and there is also a bizarre form of affairs. So we cannot even structure the category in that way, because everybody has an upward mobility now. They want to consume more and more. But that consumption, the attitude of consumption, is also very commodified. It is actually ruled by the capitalist. So there is a commodity fetishism, because they want us to consume. They want us to consume, and so that they could take the resources from us. So they want us to consume whatever they want us, we are doing. So that's why we see that understanding of class is important. So what is class? Class has a role. So it has a role in the social, in a social relationship, okay, or production, and also it occupies a position in the that hierarchical system. Class occupy a position in the hierarchical system, which class we say, okay, and also it has a role with the means of production, okay. Those who hold the means of production, definitely they are the richer class. Those who cannot hold the means of productions, they are the poor class. Like we have that labor capital. Poor class only have the labor, the rich class have the capital also, other means of production, machineries and everything. So they can actually rule in that way. So that was the understanding, Marx's understanding. But that understanding is limited. I'm not saying that that is a fully completed understanding. It's limited understanding, because there are also other classes. like ethnic classes there. We do have gender as a class, aging is a factor, like the age old form a class, children, women. So they do have a different communities and they also form a class because women have a different consciousness altogether. Female as a group have a different consciousness. Okay, children cannot be like compatible with even an old age and adult. They are children. They are called child because of that lack of maturity of their faculty. Right? They do have a different consciousness altogether. They form a class. So, like student, they do form a class. So we have different classes, varieties of classes. So Marxist understanding of class is also very limited. Okay, now in politics, you need to study, need to understand this very concept without which you cannot simply study what is the role of media. Okay, in politics. Without studying about right, without studying about government, without studying about ideologies, without studying about the politics, you cannot simply study the role of media in government. Okay, you need to have understanding about the state apparatus, huh, at least some understanding how state is evolved. What is state? What state is doing? We are talking about democracy. What is democracy? We are talking about you say aristocracy, oligarchy. What is oligarchy? There are different ideologies which actually shape the action, political action. We need to understand those ideologies. It's very, very important. Without which you cannot even understand the style of ruling. You need to understand the style of ruling. We also have rhetorical communication here. Okay, we need to understand the populism and all. So these are new construct. So rhetorics are there for long back. That is, we also have Aristotle theory of rhetoric, right? So, but you see, you need to understand it, understand those specific concept, and hence we see that Marx has a different notion of state. We also have another notion of state politics as a common good, where we get to see a broader role of the state. State is a distributor of public good, distributor of education, distributor of other benefits. Okay, and when needed, also interfere in the affairs of the individual. Apart from providing the defense, protecting, so that is a broader role of the state. That is a state role as a common good, as public good, common good. So, common good, that concept is supposed to be defined. We talk about the greatest happiness for the greatest number of the people, where actually that's Bentham, Jeremy Bentham talks about greatest happiness for the greatest number of the people. They define what is common good, what is good, and which is common for a larger number of people. In that way, state will provide those common good. So it is different that state as a common good or facilitator of common good is a different perspective from the very liberal notion that limited individualist, like limited state mechanism or individualistic or pluralistic notion of state. Okay. Hence, it also politics will comprise the study of state, right? We also have an understanding of participation, which is very important, and political culture. Without understanding the political culture, without understanding the political participation, we actually cannot understand the political communication. Now you see it is a study of government, right, and state. Then we see how citizen play a role in the government activity is also a part of political communication. The role in various activities of the government, and there are different government activities are there. And again, so now I'm a bit more holistic. I'm not being that very spatial because this is my first class. No, I'm actually giving you the brief of what is political communication. Okay, so then we will be more specific about state and government, about political culture. Okay, so first we study the political culture. What is political culture? Huh? So it's important to understand the political culture, and you study the Almond and Barber's book, that Gabriel Almond and Barber's. There is a book on civic culture. Civic culture is basically the amalgamation of three attitudes of the citizens, amalgamation of the parochial attitude, participation related attitude, participants attitude, and mm, subject attitude of the population. Now you see, in one political system, we talk about these affairs of government and the state. What will be the role of the state? What will be the role of the population and the citizen? Okay, that is important. And how they will uh, perform their activities, whether they are interested to perform their activities in the affairs of the government or not. Usually, we see there is a lack of apathy, right, among the citizens, among even you also, when we talk of politics. Huh. And many a time it is also said that politics is a higher level of consciousness and higher level of faculty. It involves that higher faculty. Once people are attuned to, you see, that comfort, that income, that education, then only they can talk of politics. No. So Marxist notion will deny it. It's not like that. Everybody can talk of politics. Even politics is a day-to-day life. Politics is our life. It is how we regulate our day-to-day life is also politics. Okay, so you see there is an apathy. People also said that when you talk about politics, it is about state and the government and participation in the government. In that case, we have different levels of participation. And you see, there is gladiatorial. Here, there is a very good book that is also Milbert book, Milberth, Milbert book, that is Milbert classification. Even Milbert has also given a classification in politics, the kind of participation that people and the citizen have in politics. Like we have participation related to gladiatorial participation, that is gladiatorial in the sense professional participation. When you say gladiatorial, gladiatorial is equivalent to professional. Professional participation is there. Professionally, you were involved. When you were talking about you say soliciting any public fund, you were professionally involved. Public fund, not you were helping someone to raise a campaign or Sandata Sarisa. We are not talking about this. We're talking about soliciting public fund for a cause or even public fund for a party. And you become a candidate of a party. You are contesting election. It is a professional activity. Okay, and at the same time, you also see that you are attending a strategic meeting. Now you see, attending a strategic meeting and attending a meeting is also different. A political meeting, a day-to-day meeting involves some politics, some local issues over which we also need to have an organized and collective action which requires to be taken, right? So in that case, we see that politics involve both strategic and day-to-day affairs. So when participating in a strategic meeting, you say participating in a strategic meeting is a gladiatorial and professional kind of participation. Strategic political meeting where you will decide how you will carry out the campaign, how you will even raise the funds, how you will promote a political party, how you will promote a particular candidate. Okay, and that involves a very active role of the citizen who is politically high active, having a membership of a party membership, actively involved in political party, right, for a number of years. Okay, so that is a gladiatorial kind of participation here. That is a professional participation. Then we also have, you see, transitional nature of participation. Means, yeah, I'm interested in politics. It's not like that I'm not interested. I'm interested, but I could not give much time to the politics because I usually read newspaper and there's hard news and political affairs, and I follow the political news, but I also have a sympathy towards political parties, some candidates, but I cannot give much time even to join a rally. But yeah, sometimes whenever I get the chance, I'll join a rally. That is a kind of transitional nature of participation. When we say, okay, transitional nature, you join a campaign, you join a rally. Okay, you also make yourself part of the rally. That is a kind of participation, part of political participation. Let's say, right? And another one is you see that gladiatorial. Then we have transitional, and the third one is we have you see the spectators participation. You are simply observing in a sense when you wearing a t-shirt with the logo of a party or someone's even the face appearing, you are supporting, your support is being registered. That is a kind of spectators activity. But again, you are not that active. You're wearing a t-shirt doesn't even denote or connote your orientation towards the party. Huh. Then say Gueva t-shirt worn by many, but not necessarily that person is a Marxist. Not necessarily that a person who is wearing say Gueva t-shirt is a Marxist, having a Marxist ideology. No, out of that style quotient also he or she can wear. He can wear this kind of t-shirt, right? But yeah, that's a kind of spectator, you see, participation, spectatorial or spectators participations or spectatorial participation. Okay, so observant participation. So you are simply a kind of observer of the affairs. Okay, you are reading a newspaper and get that stimuli of the politics. Okay, who has won? Okay, get the stimuli for some time. So you are aware who has won the elections, who is the MP of your constituent, or who has been elected from your constituent. You are aware and you develop a stimuli towards politics is a kind of spectator. Okay, we like that, but we have different kind of participation. And participation also comes from socialization. Now you need to understand political socialization. You see, we're talking about political participations. First, state and government is understanding. State and government is very important, and then we also need to understand what is political participations and how we understand political participation. And then what is important is political socialization. Socialization happens right after the birth. Socialization happens right in the family. The family is politically active, and you get to see that children are also politically active because every day they used to have that exposure of political stimuli, right? And they will be politically active. And if not, they understand politics, they eat politics, drink politics, sleep with politics, but yeah, they might not also join because of some other reasons, but yeah, they are active or they are participants. They are participants. You cannot say that they are subject or they are parochial. They are participants. Now, when we talk about the participants here, we are talking about the culture, political culture. Okay, we are talking about the political culture, the kind of culture that we have. The political culture, we have civic culture. As I have told you, civic culture is a form of participant, subject, and you see, participant culture, subject culture, and parochial culture. But when we talk about the political culture, this involves some political uh, ideologies that defines the you see action. Okay, and it is also studied at different levels. So we also have a you see system level to understand the political culture. We have a process level to understand the political culture, and we also have a policy level to understand the political culture. And at system level, you actually understand the legitimacy of the government. Now you see the role of government. You have given the legitimacy. You understand the legitimacy. It means you have acknowledged that government. You have embraced that government. Embraced the principles of the government. Okay, so here we actually talk about the legitimacy of the government, the types of government that you have, whether it's a democratic government, it's an autocratic government, it's a totalitarian form of government, it's an authoritarian government, okay, it's a military rule, the type of government. Legitimacy depends upon the citizen. Okay, the kind of legitimacy we are talking of is depends upon the citizen. Okay, whether citizen will acknowledge that form of government or not. We cannot even say that there is an authoritarian form of government. There's a military rule within many countries. You talk about even you see North Korea. You talk about even most of the African state. You talk about Pakistan. That government got legitimacy from the people. But here we talk about the democratic form of government in US, in Canada, in India. So there are also many countries we get to see democratic form of government got legitimacy from the people. So at system level, we basically talk about the values and legitimacy. Values, what actually forms the government? We talk about ideologies, no? So to understand it in concrete terms, we talk actually about certain values. Your values related to national identity. One government, you take pride of India, you say it, you take pride of India because of values like Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, tolerance, you talk about freedom of expressions, you also have, so you say, non-violence. Okay, these are some values. And also, we get to have reflection of it in our day-to-day statistics about like, corruption index, about gender equality index, about domestic violence. So you read those index and you define the usage system level, how system is working. Okay, the kind of legitimacy that people have towards the system. Okay, so that culture is very important. At system level, we understand the values, what we take pride of. We take pride of national identity, take pride of freedom of expression. Freedom of expression is there or not? To what extent it is there? The number of cases you actually see, journalists are being killed. How can you say that there is freedom of expression? But at the same time, you are freely communicating across the network. But what kind of voices are being marred? You are also supposed to critically analyze. So here is very, very important to critically analyze certain values, certain index, which will define the identity of the nation. Okay, and values which will define the identity of the nation, and that comprise the system level parameter of political culture. Okay, then we will move to um, process level. In process level, we talk about the nature of the citizen, how they are apathetic and they are participants here. As I have already told you, whether they are apathetic or they are participants, it's important. So if they're apathetic, they might be apathetic, they might also say that I don't want to vote because my vote will not change the situation or the system. That a region, that might be a region they may come up with. And I don't want to involve in politics because it will not give me any kind of alternative outcome. Okay. And also, my participation will not make any change. Even if we need some change, my participation will not make any change. Or without my participation, also there will be change and transformation. That's why I'll not participate. So that kind of attitude you might have, right? Those are also related to apathy, apathetic attitude. But you are basically, you see, you are not parochial, you are subject. In that case, you are subject participants. So when I say subject participants, you see the terminologies I have used. I am not saying subject citizen, I am saying subject participants. That means you are in favor of participating, but yeah, you aware about the system, you aware about the values, you aware about the constitutions, you aware about the ideologies of the government, you aware about the directions and what government is doing, but you also blindly follow without even criticizing, even if something wrong is going on. That is a subject culture. You're doing what is being told to do. Okay, it is not like that. The communication as a resistance has no place in that subject culture. So we have communication as a transformation, communication as a resistance, right? So the communication as a transformation at system level we get to see, but communication as a resistance we get to see at that you see in process level, and there is no space communication as a resistance mechanism in sister in subject not subject level in the sense among the subjects citizen. Now subject participants, that is true, subject participants they also participate, they follow whatever being told. They participate at times whenever require, subject participant to certain extent, passively participating. Okay, subject participant, that kind of culture is there even in China, passively, because there's no other political party, right? So there is a subject participant kind of attitude they do have. So they participate in the not affairs in the whatever government is saying. They also write in the blog, but they don't literally criticize the government. They can't even. Huh. So that kind of subject participant attitude of the citizen is there. Parochial attitude of the citizen or parochial citizens, we say, these are some of the culture that citizen hold, the population hold, population of a territory hold to make a system running. The parochialism is entirely primitive. They don't know anything. They're ignorant about the government. Oh, who is running the system? Oh, who is the prime minister? I don't even know like that. But yeah, it's not like that. Poverty is the region of parochialism. It's just that they don't even care. That kind of attitude is also there among if you even youth. You see, and in USA there is a like apathy, huge apathy, and that apathy is equivalent to parochial apathy among the youth. They don't even know what is happening in the political system. They're not interested because they are too much into that consumerist cult and culture. Okay, so you see that parochialness is ignorance to what is happening. So it is very easier from the system to impose on their values and attitude. But many a time it's not like that. They will be also reflecting upon the same values. You also said in primitive societies there is a parochial culture because they do not know what political organization. So you have different understanding of parochialism at the same time, different understanding of parochialism in the sense that your attitude towards a system will also be determined by your exposure to education, even your physiological need, your psychological need. Okay, understanding about politics, your participation of politics is determined by political factor, even economic factor, social factor, your physiological need, your psychological need. Okay, your exposure to poverty. So you need to earn like to penny to get two pieces of bread. So how can you even think about that politics, who is running what and what is operating at state level? So that is also related to parochialism. But you want to participate. But the thing is that the knowledge, awareness will make you see, make you participant, part of that participant culture. Not necessarily that you have to involve in the gladiatorial participation. You can also be a spectator, you understand. So, hence you see that political culture is also important to understand. Okay, so I'll not go that detail about it, and then we'll move to communication. When you talk about the communications, here we will also try to delineate the role of the different media in politics. We will discuss about public diplomacy, nation building, and also about some theories like spiral of silence theory, that is a rhetorical model of communication. And we also have agenda setting, priming theories, and framing theories are being used. These are communication theories. How these theories are applied in political communication is very, very important. And also, populism is very important now. I mean, political advertising, political marketing will also come in our study interest. So we'll be discussing about different techniques of advertising, political advertising, some narratives, visual narratives that involves like politicization will also be studied. Okay, spin doctoring, etc. So we will be studying those. And propaganda, which is very, very important, that will also be a part of political communication. Okay, we will also understand about nationalism because this is important part of government, nationalism, ethnicity. Understanding it is important. That is basically related to margin and marginality. So we will also have some understanding about you see the representation of gender in the media, representation of caste in the media, so representation Caste is obsolete nowadays, but at the same time, it is not that obsolete. There are also books written on the caste nowadays. Again, so you cannot say that it is like it's very obsolete. But yeah, and but you need to have some understanding what happened. Things have changed, completely changed. But yeah, you cannot not completely change to a certain extent. Things have changed, but yeah, there is scope to understand. The situation have changed. I cannot just things is very informal. The situation have changed, but there is a scope to understand and also critically think why it was happening, and how it had changed, or what is the present scenario of those margins. It's very important. So we also talk about identity, inclusivity, about as it is a political and international communication, we also need to have some understanding about global media. Okay, so yeah, that is all for today.